Hello and welcome to all the viewers in Nigeria and around the world to News Circle on Global Television. Coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Ubong Osoro. A quick reminder, Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and StarTime channel 276. The federal government has reaffirmed its commitment to the safety of students and the continuity of education nationwide, following the reopening of all 47 Unity colleges earlier this month. The Federal Ministry of Education disclosed this in a statement issued by its Director of Press and Public Relations, Boriwo Folasade. The statement said academic activities has fully resumed in affected schools after security measures within and around the campuses were strengthened, assuring parents, guardians, and the general public that the safety, welfare, and well-being of students remain a top priority of the federal government. President Bola Tinubu will on Friday present the 2026 Appropriation Bill to a joint session of the National Assembly. Clerk to the National Assembly, Kamaro Ogunlade, disclosed this in a statement signed by the Secretary, Human Resources and Staff Development of the National Assembly, Essien Eyo Essien, on his behalf. The National Assembly also announced restricted access to the complex from 11 a.m. for security reasons ahead of the presentation. The House of Representatives has commenced an investigation into the growing menace of drug abuse in Nigeria, as lawmakers warn that the crisis now poses a serious threat to national stability and public health. National Assembly correspondent Aniete Patri reports.
The probe is being carried out by an ad hoc committee on drug trafficking, alcohol and tobacco abuse, set up to expose systemic failures and recommend urgent corrective measures. Chairman of the committee, Olutimei Adelegbe, said the investigation would focus on the widespread abuse of cannabis, tramadol, codeine-based cough syrups, as well as harmful alcoholic mixtures and tobacco products.
Enactment of National Alcohol Act, enforcement of smoke-free spaces, digital tracking of pharmaceutical products, enforcement of drug prescription law.
He warned that weak enforcement at ports and borders has allowed fake drugs and unregistered substances to flood the market, leaving entire communities devastated by addiction, crime, and preventable deaths.
Business model can be allowed to thrive at the expense of Nigerian lives. No profit margin can justify the destruction of our youth.
The United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime also raised fresh concerns describing drug use in Nigeria as alarming and far above the global average.
Drug trafficking is not merely a law enforcement issue. It is not only about NDLA or NAFDAC or what have you. It's an economic crime.
The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency pledged its support for the investigation, calling for stronger legislation, improved regulation, enhanced treatment systems, and increased operational resources to curb drug abuse and trafficking nationwide.
Increased use of non-conventional routes, including courier services, luggage consignment, and digital ordering systems. Growing involvement of transnational criminal networks exploiting regional instability and porous borders. Emergence of clandestine methamphetamine laboratories, particularly in the fringe urban and rural settlements.
Lawmakers say recommendations from the investigation will guide reforms aimed at protecting public health, saving lives, and strengthening Nigeria's fight against illicit drugs. From the National Assembly, Aniete Patrick reporting for Global TV News.
The Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, has defied the federal government to stage a nationwide protest despite a late-night meeting with President Bola Tinubu. Union leaders had met the president in Abuja on Tuesday in a bid to halt the planned action, which Labour says was aimed at calling for decisive action against the rising insecurity in the country. An action NLC President Joe Ajero told journalists was not called off. Uyi Abumofwegbe has more.
Ajero noted that the meeting did not amount to a cancellation, stressing that the Congress never issued any statement suspending the protest. According to him, repeated letters sent to the presidency since June on food, financial and physical insecurity faced by workers were ignored.
Part of the discussion we wanted to go with the president is on national issue of security, both physical security, physical insecurity and financial insecurity. So it took this issue of action, which was basically to protest and to list to them the level of physical and financial insecurity that the workers are passing through.
Labour leaders say the protest was the only action that drew government attention, leading to consultations involving the Governors Forum and federal officials.
On the civil society side is that the country is bleeding, and the bleeding ought to be immediately stopped. And Nigeria, or the leadership of Nigeria, has failed to protect the people of Nigeria at this time.
Meanwhile, after talks with the government, the NLC said it would brief its national and state organs before announcing any final position. Government officials present at the meeting noted that dialogue is ongoing with assurances given on economic recovery and labor concerns. The protest threat comes amid rising hardship and renewed calls for improved wages across the country. For now, the Labour Congress insists the streets remain its next line of action, pending a collective decision by its leadership. Uyi Agbumofwegbe, reporting for Global TV News.
Meanwhile, the Labour Congress in Kano has called on the federal government to urgently find a sustainable solution to the rising insecurity across the country. During a peaceful protest held in front of the Kano State Government House, workers decried the increasing attacks on ordinary citizens. Global Television correspondent Idris Jibrin reports.
Members of the Nigeria Labour Congress from the 44 local government areas of Kano State gathered at the Government House to voice their concerns over the growing insecurity in the country. The protest, according to the union, is part of a nationwide campaign to draw attention to the frequent bandit attacks, kidnappings in the north, and activities of militia groups in the south, all of which they say threaten the nation's economic and social stability.
Drawing the attention of the President and the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces to do the needful for ensuring the security of the masses and the entire country. Because we are not secure. There is always insecurity in Nigeria, and it's escalating. That is why we intend to stage this peaceful protest to draw the attention of the powers that be, so that they can please give us their attention and try their best to secure our lives and properties.
The union is urging the federal government to improve the welfare of security operatives, especially those on the front lines, while stressing that no Nigerian should live in constant fear despite the country's vast resources.
The essence of this protest today is because of the insecurity. It's a decision that was taken by the National Executive Council of the Nigerian Labour Congress that we should state a protest in order to protest against the insecurity that is happening in Nigeria.
While receiving the protesters, officials from the Kano State government commended the peaceful nature of the protest and promised to forward their message to President Bola Tinubu for prompt action.
The issue. So the Labour is exercising its constitutional rights, and it is doing it peacefully as per the constitutional provisions. So the government's position on this matter is positive. We welcome any positive interaction in a peaceful manner.
The state government also reaffirms its commitment to working closely with civil society groups to ensure sustained peace and security across the states. From Kano, Idris Jibrin, Global Television News.
In a related development, organized labor in Benue State has taken to the streets demanding urgent action over the rising wave of insecurity and killings across the states and the country at large. Felicity Ndere reports.
Placards carrying members of the Nigerian Labour Congress marched through major streets in Makurdi, joining similar protests held nationwide to draw attention to the worsening security situation. Addressing the crowd, The Benue State chairman of the Nigerian Labour Congress said workers can no longer remain silent while innocent citizens are murdered and displaced from their homes. The Labour leader presented a formal letter outlining the demands of workers and residents to the Benue State government with a request that it should be forwarded to the presidency.
The insecurity in the state and in the country generally is too much. Tell me the truth. How can 450 people were being killed in Eurowater one night? Not correct. You can't go to Naka now, the most popular road that people go to, Naka local government, and they don't pass. So today, the Nigerian Labour Congress have decided to process. This is just an attempt to come and tell you that the insecurity in the country is not.
Receiving the letter on behalf of Governor Hyacinth Alia, the head of civil service, Dr. Moses Agbobo-Ode, assured the protesters that the state government is working closely with federal authorities and security agencies to restore peace.
Your message is very clear. The insecurity all over the country is actually too much, on the basis of which this state government, under the leadership of Hyacinth Alia, will never relent on her efforts until peace is achieved for every Benue person, until peace is achieved for all Nigerians living in Benue.
As calls for improved security grow louder, organized labor insists that protecting lives must remain a top priority, warning that peace and productivity cannot thrive in an atmosphere of fear. In Makurdi, Felicity Indere, reporting for Global Television News.
As the International Organization for Migration advocates safe and orderly migration, experts are calling for adjustment in policies. Speaking in an exclusive interview as part of activities to commemorate the significance of the day in 2025, Global Television security and political analyst Professor Ibrahim Abubakar, the day's adjustment has become necessary to ensure global policy alignment. Zahra Nazi reports.
In 2025, the International Migrants Day is marked under the theme Migrant Story, Cultures and Development, highlighting how human mobility enriches societies, drives economic growth, and strengthens connections across communities. The International Migrants Day is commemorated to acknowledge the millions of people who leave their native place or permanent shelters in search of safety, opportunity, and dignity across borders. The day is observed every year on 18 December to recognize the contributions, rights, and vulnerabilities of migrants worldwide. It draws attention to the hundreds of millions of people living or working outside their place of birth, including refugees, students, care workers, seafarers, and undocumented laborers, and highlights how migration shapes economies, cultures, and families across borders. Professor Ibrahim Abubakar, Global TV Security and Political Analyst, says the policy framework which they are working now needs to be expanded to work on safety, protection, and other measures of control.
Migration has been one of the openings for exploration, ventures, businesses, and all, even science and technology. Well, I think the International Organization for Migration needs to make some adjustment in their policies. Why? Because some of the policies are actually obsolete. But you want to have total control. You can't have total control without preventive measures, without safety, without security, without other foreign policies taken into consideration.
The United Nations General Assembly chose 18 December for the day to mark the anniversary of the 1990 adoption by the United Nations General Assembly of the International Convention on the Protection of the Rights of All Migrants, Workers, and Members of their Families. Zahra Nasr, reporting for Global TV News.
You're watching the live broadcast of News Echo. When News Echo returns, Central African Republic deploys armed forces and MINUSCA to secure election. Details coming shortly, plus business and sports stories on the other side of this break. Please do stay with us. business, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, has set up a 7-member ad hoc committee to investigate allegations of discrepancies between tax bills passed by the National Assembly and versions earlier assented to by the President and officially gazetted. The committee was constituted during plenary as concerns grew over the integrity of the legislative process. The move followed a matter of privilege raised by Abdulsaman Danzuki, who claimed that the content of the tax laws as gazetted differed from what lawmakers debated and approved. Also, the federal government has strengthened its Blue Economy Initiative with approval of the Bakassi Deep-Sea Port. As the Minister of Marine and Blue Economy, Deboyika Oyetola, presented the project certificate of compliance to the Cross River State Governor, Senator Bassi Otu. In a statement signed by Oyetola's Special Advisor, Bolaji Akinola, the minister described the Bakassi Deep-Sea Port as a strategic national asset aligned with President Bola Tinubu's renewed hope agenda, particularly in efforts to position Nigeria as a competitive maritime and logistics hub. He assured all that the federal government would continue to support Cross River states to ensure the successful delivery of the project, while commending Governor Otu for his commitment and the pace of work on the seaport. Nigeria's small business sector is set for a major expansion in 2026 as the Small and Medium Enterprise Development Agency of Nigeria, SMEDA, unveiled sweeping plans to formalize millions of enterprise, expand access to funding, and strengthen support infrastructure nationwide. Director General of the agency, Charles Odi, disclosed this while briefing journalists in Abuja. Business correspondent Kike Lomo Okere brings details.
The Director General, SMEDA, Charles Odi, announced that ongoing efforts to formalize informal businesses, which began in 2020, are expected to add more than 250,000 newly registered enterprises by the first quarter of 2026, with an ambitious target of registering 1 million additional businesses across the country. Odi stressed that business formalization remains critical to growth, visibility, and access to opportunities for small enterprises.
In 2026, we should have handed over 250,000 new registered businesses. And we are currently, I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag, but we're pushing with the presidency for another 1 million. So the last time we counted, we had about 39,654,285 nano, micro, small, and medium enterprises. But we are very certain that even though these are interesting times for small businesses, that number would go up because of the formalization process that is happening in that is happening now and will be unveiled in 2026.
The SMEDA boss also reveals that a new national MSMEs policy under review since 2021 is nearing completion. It says the policy is being developed with strong stakeholders' engagement to ensure it directly addresses the real challenges facing micro, small, and medium enterprises. On social inclusion, Odi says the agency is implementing programs aimed at reintegrating ex-prisoners into society through skills training and employment opportunities within the MSME sector to reduce stigma and promote economic inclusion. It further disclosed that 12 billion naira in affordable funding is currently available to small businesses, with over 500,000 enterprises already benefiting.
Today is just one facility. We are working with some state governments. Some of them are very receptive. We want to make sure that we can replicate this across. Imagine that we have 774 of this across Nigeria. People, I think that would reduce the high rate of unemployment and insecurity in the country. Because there's a triangle that I always try to draw. Hunger leads to anger, anger leads to violence. So if you want to stop violence and insecurity, then let's address it from the hunger level. If our people are employed, our people are doing a lot of business, our people are doing a lot of job, and they can see the fruits of their labor, they won't pick up arms.
Odi also emphasized plans to establish business support center in all 774 local government area and expressed optimism that approval for a proposed microfinance bank by the Central Bank of Nigeria will further strengthen support for professionals and business clusters. With increased funding, wider formalization, and a renewed policy framework, Smithon says the coming year will mark a turning point for Nigeria's small business economy. Kike Lomo Okeri, Global Television News.
Let's go to the foreign scene now. Reinforcements from the Central African Armed Forces, known as FACA, has been deployed to the Vakaga region with support from the United Nations peacekeeping mission MINUSCA as authorities move to secure the country's upcoming elections. The additional troops were deployed as part of the integrated election security plan, with MINUSCA providing air support for operations. The Central African Republic is preparing to hold presidential, parliamentary and municipal election on December 28, the first local government polls in decades. European Union leaders have gathered in Brussels to hold a vote on whether they are able to use nearly $200 billion in frozen Russian assets to support Ukraine over the next 2 years. Inside Ukraine, Russian forces have carried out a number of attacks across the country, injuring dozens of people, including in Kyiv, Ria City, as well as Zaporizhia, Cherkasy, and Odessa region. Meanwhile, 3 people, including 2 crew members of the cargo vessel, have been killed in Ukrainian drone attacks on Russian ports of Rostovo and the town of Basker in the southern Rostov region, according to the local governor. Qatar's prime minister has warned that deadly Israeli breaches of the Gaza ceasefire are threatening the entire agreement, as he called for urgent action towards the next phase of the deal to end Israel's genocidal war on the besieged Palestinian enclave. Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdurrahman bin Tassim Al Thani made the appeal following talks with the United States Secretary of State Marco Rubio in Washington. He stressed that delays and ceasefire violations endanger the entire process and place mediators in a difficult position. The Qatari premier, whose country has played a critical mediating role, said the humanitarian aid must reach Gaza unconditionally and that the second phase of the agreement must begin immediately. Let's go to sports now. The winners of the 2026 FIFA World Cup will receive $50 million in prize money as part of a record $655 million total prize fund announced by FIFA. The tournament, to be hosted by the United States, Mexico, and Canada, will feature 48 teams for the first time. Teams eliminated at the group stage will receive $9 million, while all participating nations will get an additional $1.5 million for preparation costs. FIFA has punished Malaysia with 3-0 defeats in 3 matches after they were found guilty of fielding ineligible player. This was confirmed by the Football Association of Malaysia. The results include victories in friendly matches against Palestine and Singapore and a draw with Cape Verde. And that's it on News Circle. A quick reminder, Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and StarTime channel 276. Kindly do follow us across all social media platforms now showing on your screen using @GlobalTVNG. I am Ubong Osora. Good evening and bye for now.